Hey everybody, welcome to the Solar Sister channel. It's your girl Solar Sister coming to you once again with another video. Guys, today I'd like to talk to you about what does it really mean to be independent. Before we move forward, if you would, go ahead, thumbs up the video, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, hit that notification bell if you'd like to be made aware of upcoming videos, and feel free to share with anyone you think might benefit. So, guys, first of all, let me just say happy first day of July. I can't believe we're in the second half of 2022. Don't know what happened to the first half, but I do know that my goal is to try to rock out these last 6 months the best way I know how, and I'm inviting you to do the same. So let's get into it. The word independent has been rolling around in my spirit for probably the last 3 or 4 days. And I've been kind of just trying to sit with it, trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to be learning from it, just trying to get to the bottom of why it continued to just pop up in my spirit. I don't know if it's because we're coming up on the 4th of July and that's the day that they celebrate Independence Day in the States. I don't know if that's the reason or not, but like I said, it's been rolling around in my spirit, and part of what I try to do now that I have the time is when things come up and they keep coming up, I try to sit with it to try to be able to process it and understand what it is I'm supposed to be learning in that moment. That's one of the things that I'm doing in this repatriation process, is trying to deconstruct all of the things that I thought I knew, the things I thought I believed, the things I thought I understood, trying to deconstruct those things that were created in a toxic environment and try to reconstruct or construct this new and better version of myself now that I feel like I'm in a space of sanity, security, and safety. I'm now trying to figure out who I'm supposed to be becoming now that I'm in this new environment. So let's talk about this word independent. So in the Googleations, I have 2 definitions that I have here from the Googleations. The first definition of independent is to be free from outside control, not subject to another's authority. And then the second definition is not depending on another for livelihood or subsistence. So as a person who has decided to repatriate, of course there are some things that were familiar to me that I had to be willing to let go of. Because, even familiarity bred in toxicity is still familiarity. Not saying that it's good for you, but I was familiar with it. So I am in the process of trying to unravel all of those toxic behaviors that I learned in that toxic sewage in the States, and I'm now trying to become healed and recover from all of the trauma and the drama that was sustained in the West. But one of the things that I do remember when I decided to repatriate was that my goal was to get as independent as I possibly could. Independent with my food, independent with my water, utilities, housing, etc. And I think that should probably be the goal of most of us. I'm looking at what's happening in the West. Things are about to get real. And one thing that I can say about being here on the continent is that this continent is rich in many resources. Going back to this first definition of independence, being free from outside control, not subject to another's authority, I feel like there are many countries on this continent that are still being influenced by those that they gained their independence from. And part of what we as Black people across the globe are going to have to do is learn how to circle the wagon on our people and stop letting outside forces determine how well our people will do, how strong our people will become, how wealthy our people will become. It's time for us to cut off those controls and start focusing inward and doing what we need to do to help our people. Now, of course, we know there are a lot of um, black-looking people, so to speak, who may not be um, part of this agenda. And when we find out who those people are, we have to be willing to let them go, not be offended, but let them go and move forward. We don't have the energy in this time to be focusing on anything or anyone that is not for the growth, the positive growth of the collective. So even in the States, there are many of us who are still depending on others for our livelihood, because I think that's part of what happened with integration. A lot of people who were used to having to be entrepreneurs because we had no choice. You know, black people own their grocery stores, their dry cleaners, their own homes, their whatever, the barber shops, whatever. They own those things because we had no other place to do our business. We had to do it within our communities, and we lost a lot of that. It's time for us to now look at how we are still so connected to other people, that we saw what happened in the C-19 situation where businesses folded, and that affected the livelihoods of a lot of people. People couldn't go to work and their livelihoods were affected. And so it's time for us to now be focused on how we can pull ourselves out of being connected to certain systems that have not served us well, that have kept us in a certain position because we become too dependent on them. And it's now time for us to get to a place where we can remove ourselves from those systems. Yeah, so that's where I am with this independence. I am at a point where I'm trying to get to be as self-sufficient, as self-supporting as possible throughout this process. I'm slowly coming up with a plan to do so, but in the end, that is the goal, is to be as self-sufficient as possible. And I'm asking you to be looking at areas in your life to figure out where you need to be self-sufficient, because the way things are going, we got to have an alternative plan. We have to have our own lives in our hands. We have to have our own, let's just say that. We have to have our own thing so that we can make sure that we are able to take care of ourselves independently of any other sources. Yeah, that's all I have, guys. Again, ask yourself, what does it really mean to be independent? And think about what connections you still have to the West. If you decided to leave, what are the connections that you still have to the West? And figure out what things you can do to minimize that connection, if not totally eliminate it altogether. So guys, that's all I have. Like I always say, guys, if you can't do anything else, protect your headspace, protect your heart space, and keep your vibration high. Until the next one, guys, it's your girl Solar Sister.